Music Management Podcast, your gateway to the cutting edge of innovation and the world of navigating the music industry as an indie artist. Join our hosts as they explore the latest trends in the industry, artist breakthroughs, IRM releases, and more on the IRM Music Management Podcast, powered by Indie Roadmap.
All right, so today let's take a deep dive into something that honestly might sound a little too good to be true at first.
Okay.
It's this idea of turning, those simple QR code scans that we see everywhere these days,
Right.
turning those into like a steady stream of income for musicians.
Hmm.
And we're not just talking about, getting a couple extra bucks in the tip jar at shows or anything.
Yeah.
This is about putting a system in place that could realistically bring in, an extra $2,448 per year.
Wow.
Just from fans, engaging with your emails.
Okay.
So to really unpack all of this, we're going to be looking at this article called Maximizing Fan Capture. Transform QR scans into lasting revenue.
That's a great title.
It is a really catchy title.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is how this article, really kind of reimagines what it means to build a fan base.
I think that's key because it's not just about, like you said, fleeting interactions at a gig. It's about cultivating those, long-term relationships that are really essential for any artist to thrive.
Absolutely. And one of the core ideas in here is that 20% of email subscribers will actually become lifelong fans,
Wow.
each worth around $17 a year.
Yeah.
But honestly, in a world that's so dominated by social media,
Right.
why is email still considered so valuable?
That's a really good question, and I think a lot of people kind of forget about the power of email. But think about it this way. Email cuts through all the noise,
Yeah.
It's that direct connection with your fans. It's not filtered through algorithms or
Yeah.
subject to the whims of, these social media platforms.
Right.
When you build an email list,
Yeah.
you're essentially creating a community that you own and control.
Okay. So I see the potential there, but how does this QR code magic actually work?
Yeah.
The article calls it the
I love this.
instant music access strategy.
The instant music access strategy.
It sounds almost too simple.
Well, it is simple, but that's part of its brilliance.
All right.
So picture this. You're at a show, right?
Okay.
And you see the band's QR code up on like the stage or something.
Yeah.
You scan it with your phone, you enter your email address,
Easy.
boom, instant access to a free download of their latest track.
Hmm.
It's all about that immediate reward.
But wouldn't that just lead to a bunch of people grabbing the freebie and then kind of disappearing?
That's where the psychology of instant gratification comes in. It creates a sense of investment, even if it's just an email address.
Right.
That small act makes the listener much more likely to actually pay attention to the artist's future work.
So it's like this initial spark that turns a casual concert goer
Right.
into a more like engaged fan.
Exactly.
Now, the article mentions a platform called IRM Management,
Yeah, I've heard of them.
and they apparently handle all the behind-the-scenes stuff like the email capture and music delivery.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the main advantage of using a system like that?
Well, automation is key here. Not only does it save artists a ton of time and effort, but it ensures a smooth and consistent experience for each new fan.
Right.
No more manually sending out downloads or scrambling to collect emails after a show.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do you keep those fans engaged over time?
Okay, so that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Once the initial excitement of that free download wears off, what's the strategy?
Yeah, what do you do next?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The article suggests using email to keep fans in the loop,
Okay.
sharing exclusive content, offering pre-release access to new music, announcing merch deals, even creating fan-only experiences.
Wow.
It's about providing consistent value
Yeah.
and reminding them why they signed up in the first place.
Okay, so it's not just a one-time transaction.
Yeah, no.
It's about nurturing that relationship,
Right.
giving fans a reason to stay connected.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do you measure the success of this approach?
Yeah, is there a way to really quantify this?
Yeah. Does the article offer any, concrete numbers?
It does. Let's break it down.
Okay.
Let's say a musician plays 4 shows a month, and they capture an average of 15 emails per show.
Okay.
Based on that 20% conversion rate to lifelong fans,
Right.
that's 12 new superfans every month.
Wow.
And if those fans are each worth $17 per year,
Yeah.
that's an extra $204 per month.
Okay, so that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
But the article doesn't stop there, does it?
It keeps going, it gets even better.
Okay.
They talk about this compounding effect.
Yeah, the compounding effect.
And they project this growth over 3 years,
Good.
showcasing how consistent fan capture can lead to significant returns.
Gotcha.
The idea is, as your email list grows,
Mm-hmm.
so does your potential for generating revenue.
Okay.
By year 3,
Yeah.
that same musician could be looking at over $7,000 in annual revenue
Wow.
just from email engagement.
Okay, so those numbers really drive home the point that this isn't just about collecting email addresses.
Right.
It's about building a sustainable source of income.
Exactly.
But for those of us who aren't musicians, is there anything we can take away from this instant music access strategy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
While the specifics might differ, the underlying principles are universal.
Okay.
It's all about providing value up front, nurturing those relationships, and understanding that consistent effort can lead to remarkable long-term results.
Right, so it's about building something for the long haul.
Exactly. But before we dive into how this strategy can be applied to other fields,
Yeah.
let's look at some practical tips from the article for making sure it actually works.
Okay, let's do it. So I'm curious about, how these ideas could actually translate beyond the music scene.
Yeah.
What are some ways that someone who isn't a musician could, use this approach?
Well, think about it. It's
Yeah.
all about creating that direct connection with people who are already interested in what you have to offer. So think, small business owners, authors, consultants, or anyone with like a passion project.
Right.
Building an email list of engaged individuals can be incredibly valuable no matter what you do.
So instead of just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping people will find you online,
Right.
you're giving them a way to say,
Yeah.
hey, I like what you're doing. Keep me in the loop.
Exactly. And remember, email cuts through all the clutter of social media.
Right.
You're not competing with algorithms or vying for attention in a crowded newsfeed.
Yeah, it's a much more direct line.
Exactly.
Okay. But how would you translate that instant music access strategy to another context?
Okay.
What's the equivalent of offering a free download in a different field?
Think about what kind of instant gratification you could offer. It
Yeah.
could be like a free chapter of your book,
Okay.
a discount code for your online store,
Hmm.
maybe a downloadable book guide related to your area of expertise,
Yeah.
or even just access to some exclusive content that you don't share anywhere else.
So it's about giving people something valuable up front.
Right.
Something that makes them feel like they're getting a special reward for signing up.
Exactly.
But once you have their email,
Yeah.
how do you keep them engaged?
Yeah.
What would be the equivalent of like those show announcements and exclusive content that we talked about for musicians?
Right. Well, it depends on your field, of course.
Okay.
But the key is consistent value.
Yeah.
So if you're like a consultant, maybe you share insights and tips related to your industry.
Uh-huh.
Offer free webinars, announce new services. Maybe you send out a monthly newsletter with curated content that your audience would find valuable.
So it's about creating that kind of VIP experience
Yeah.
for the people who are genuinely interested in your work.
You got it. And that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
By providing consistent value and showing up authentically.
Yeah.
You build trust and credibility.
Right.
You position yourself as an expert in your field. And that makes people more likely to turn to you when they need what you offer.
So you're building your reputation.
Exactly.
Okay, this is starting to click for me.
Oh.
It's not just about collecting emails.
Yeah.
It's about creating a community around your work
Yeah.
and forming genuine connections with the people who support you.
You got it.
Okay.
And just like with the musician's email list,
Right.
this approach has a compounding effect.
Oh, interesting.
The more people you connect with, the more opportunities you have to grow your business, your influence, or whatever it is you're passionate about. Each new subscriber is a potential customer, client, collaborator, or even just an advocate for your work.
That's a really powerful concept.
It is.
I love how this conversation has gone from focusing on this specific strategy
Right.
to exploring these broader principles of community building and long-term growth.
Yeah. It's all connected.
It is all connected.
And that's what these deep dives are all about.
Exactly.
We start with a concrete example
Yeah.
and then zoom out to see how the underlying ideas can be applied in all sorts of ways. But before we lose sight of the practical side of things,
Right.
the article offered some really insightful tips for making sure this strategy works.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay.
What are the key takeaways we should keep in mind?
First and foremost,
Yeah.
clarity is essential.
Oh.
Make it crystal clear what people are getting in exchange for their email address.
Right.
Don't be vague or try to trick them into signing up.
Yeah,
Be upfront and transparent about the value you're offering.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
No one likes feeling misled or like they've been tricked into something.
exactly. And secondly, make it easy for people to sign up.
Okay.
The process should be simple and straightforward.
Mhm.
If it's too complicated or time-consuming, they're likely to give up before they even start.
Right. So
Yeah.
keep those sign-up forms short and sweet.
Exactly.
No one wants to fill out a novel just to get on your email list.
Right. And consider using a service that allows for single-click sign-up or integration with social media accounts. The easier you make it, the more likely people are to follow through.
Those are some great practical tips.
Yeah.
It seems like the automation piece is crucial too.
Yeah.
Not just for saving time, but for ensuring a good experience for everyone who signs up.
Absolutely. And luckily, there are a ton of tools and platforms out there
Right.
that can handle all the technical heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a tech wizard to make this work.
Okay, this is all so helpful.
Good.
It feels like we've gone from this abstract idea of fan capture
Right.
to a really concrete understanding of how it can be applied in the real world.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
what's the one big takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I think the most important thing to remember is that building an email list isn't just about collecting contact information.
Okay.
It's about building a community of engaged individuals
Oh, yeah.
who genuinely care about what you have to offer.
It's about fostering those direct connections that are so valuable in today's increasingly noisy and fragmented world.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay.
And by putting in the time and effort to build those relationships, you're creating a foundation for long-term success, no matter what field you're in.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the digital age,
Mm-hmm.
human connection is still at the heart of everything.
Absolutely.
This conversation has been so inspiring,
Good.
and I can already feel my wheels turning thinking about how I can apply these ideas to my own life.
That's great.
But before I get too carried away,
Yeah.
I want to make sure we cover one more thing from the article.
Okay.
It talked about using QR codes for something much bigger than just marketing.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
You're talking about applying the concept of fan capture to something like climate change, right?
Well, you read my mind.
The article only touched on it briefly,
Right.
but I think it's a really powerful idea.
I agree.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by such a complex issue. But what if we could use this strategy to build a community of people who are passionate about making a difference?
It's a brilliant idea.
Mm.
Instead of hoping people will stumble across information about climate change,
Right.
we create a way for them to actively opt in and say, hey, I want to be part of the solution.
And once you have that community,
Yeah?
you can use email and other tools to empower them with knowledge, resources, and opportunities to take action.
It's about transforming passive awareness into active engagement,
Yeah.
helping people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Right.
A movement that's making a real difference.
It's like we've gone from micro to macro in the span of a single conversation.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how this simple concept of fan capture can be applied to create positive change on a global scale.
I love that.
I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive.
Okay.
Any final thoughts you want to leave our listener with today?
I think it's important to remember that even the smallest actions can create a ripple effect. Don't underestimate the power of your own voice and your ability to make a difference.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I think the core message of this entire conversation is about connection.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're building a fan base, a business, or a movement,
Right.
it all starts with creating genuine relationships with people who share your passion.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay.
On that note, I think we've given our listener plenty to think about.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From QR codes and email marketing
Yeah.
to global movements and the power of collective action.
It's amazing how it's all connected.
It is incredible how all these seemingly disparate topics are connected by this idea of human connection.
That's the key.
It really is amazing how far we've come in this deep dive.
I know, right?
From, those super specific details of like using QR codes at shows
Right.
to this much broader vision of, how those same principles can apply to something as big as tackling climate change.
It's a great example of how, like, a seemingly simple idea can just spark so much possibility.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to, that core idea of building a community
Right.
around a shared purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's, a passion for music or a business idea or even just that desire to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
That sense of connection is so powerful.
It is. It's like we've zoomed out from this micro-level strategy to this macro-level understanding
Yeah,
of how human connection can drive change.
I love that.
I'm curious, though.
Yeah.
How would you actually put this fan capture for climate change
Yeah.
idea into practice?
Okay, well, imagine this.
Okay.
You create a simple, compelling call to action,
Okay.
maybe with a QR code
Mm-hmm.
that leads to like a website where
Yeah.
people can, learn more about the issue and sign up to get involved.
Right.
It could be something as simple as, pledging to reduce their carbon footprint
Right.
or donating to a reputable environmental organization.
So just like small steps to start.
Exactly.
Okay. And then just like with the musician's email list,
Yep.
you can use those emails to keep people informed,
Keep them engaged.
inspired, connected to the cause.
Or it's sharing success stories,
Yeah.
highlighting opportunities for action,
Mm-hmm.
and fostering a sense of community among, those who are passionate about creating a more sustainable future.
So it's about turning that initial spark of interest
Mhm.
into sustained engagement.
Exactly.
Right.
Helping people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
A movement that's making a real difference.
That's what I love about this whole conversation.
What's that?
It's not just about, learning a new marketing tactic.
Right.
It's about realizing that we all have this power to make a difference,
Absolutely.
no matter what our passion is.
And that's a message I think we can all get behind,
Right.
whether you're a musician trying to connect with fans,
Mhm.
an entrepreneur building a business, or someone who simply wants to, contribute to a better world.
Right.
These principles of community building and meaningful engagement can help you achieve your goals.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've not only unpacked the specifics of this QR code strategy,
Right.
but also like uncovered some really profound ideas about the power of human connection
Yeah.
and the potential we all have to, create positive change.
I agree. And hopefully our listener is walking away from this conversation feeling just as inspired as we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we sign off,
Yeah.
any final words of wisdom for those who are, ready to put these ideas into action?
Don't be afraid to experiment,
Okay.
to try new things,
Yeah.
and to find your own unique way to connect with the people who matter most to you.
Yeah.
And never underestimate the impact that even small, consistent actions can have over time.
Beautifully said. And on that note,
Okay.
it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll catch you next time
Yeah.
for another fascinating ideas that matter.
Absolutely.